Hey everyone, and welcome back to Cosmic Currents. Today we're talking about a phrase that has, quite frankly, become a spiritual meme. Trust the universe. You hear it everywhere: when you get fired, when a relationship ends, when your plans fall through. It's supposed to be this comforting balm, this gentle reminder that there's a higher plan at work. And while the sentiment is beautiful, its application can often feel lazy. It's the spiritual equivalent of saying, it is what it is, and just hoping for the best. For many of us, this platitude has become a shield against the real, messy work of life. You find yourself saying, well, the universe must be telling me something, when what's really happening is you're avoiding a difficult conversation, or you're too scared to take the next step. It's in that moment, when we retreat into passive hope, that we're missing the point entirely. The universe isn't a magical, benevolent grandfather who's going to drop the perfect job, the perfect partner, or the perfect life into your lap while you sit on the couch. The universe is a dynamic living system, and you are an active, co-creating part of it. The real question isn't whether you should trust it, but whether you're willing to do the internal work that allows you to align with its flow. Before we dive into the stars, if you're finding these insights helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps this energy reach more people who need it. Drop a comment below and tell me a question you're asking the universe right now. Alright, find a comfortable spot and let's align our energy with the cosmos. The first step in this shadow work journey is to move from passive trust to active partnership. The difference is profound. Passive trust says, I'll wait for the universe to show me the way. Active partnership says, I will align my energy, my intentions, and my actions with the path I want to create, and the universe will meet me halfway. The tools for this are not external, they are woven into your very being. They are found in your birth chart, that unique cosmic blueprint of your soul's journey. Each planet, each house, each aspect tells a story of your potential, but it also reveals the specific areas where your shadow self, the parts of you you've pushed away, ignored, or judged as resisting that potential. Consider your birth chart not as a static map of your destiny, but as a dynamic tool for self-awareness. It's a key to understanding your unique, energetic signature. Your sun sign, for example, represents your core identity, your life force, and the way you express yourself in the world. But if you only live out the best qualities of your sign, you're only working with half the picture. The shadow of your sun sign is the part that feels insecure, that's afraid to shine, that holds you back from authentic expression. For a bold Leo, the shadow might be a crippling fear of being seen as anything less than perfect. For a compassionate Pisces, it could be a tendency to become a doormat or a victim. The shadow is not a flaw, it is simply unintegrated energy. The moment you acknowledge it, you begin to reclaim it. The shadow work behind trusting the universe is about shining a light on these unintegrated parts of yourself. It's about recognizing that the universe isn't holding you back. You are holding yourself back with old beliefs, with subconscious fears, and with the shadow aspects of your own personality. The moment you stop looking for a sign from the outside and start looking for the resistance on the inside, everything shifts. You'll find that the stuck feeling you've even attributing to cosmic timing or a lack of divine intervention is actually a signal from your shadow self, telling you where the real work needs to be done. It's a call to action. It's an invitation to stop waiting and start co-creating. The universe is always responding to your energy, not just your words. So if you're emitting a frequency of fear or resistance, that's exactly what you'll get back. The shadow work is simply the process of cleaning up your signal. It's the brave act of looking at the parts of yourself that you deemed not spiritual or not good enough, and loving them anyway. So, as we begin this journey, I want you to ask yourself, where have I been passively waiting for the universe to act, instead of actively aligning with my own power? Building on that thought, let's turn our attention to the heart of your being, your sun sign. In astrology, your sun sign is the essence of who you are, your ego, your conscious self, your life purpose. It's the blueprint for your journey of self-actualization. When you read a basic horoscope, you're reading about your sun sign. It describes the traits you're meant to embody and express. A sun in Libra is meant to cultivate harmony and balance. A sun in Aries is meant to initiate and lead with courage. But here, the spiritual trap. We often fall in love with the ideal version of our sun sign and completely ignore the shadow that comes with it. The shadow is not the opposite of your sign, but rather the unintegrated, difficult, or painful aspects of its energy. For example, if you have a sun in Leo, you're naturally drawn to shining, creating, and leading. You're a natural performer, a generous friend, and a beacon of warmth. The shadow of this magnificent energy, however, is a deep-seated fear of being unloved, overlooked, or not special. This can manifest as an over-the-top need for attention, a tendency to be boastful, or a debilitating fear of rejection that keeps you from stepping onto the stage of your life. Instead of authentically creating, you might find yourself waiting for external validation, believing the universe will send a sign that you're worthy. but the sign you're waiting for is the one you have to give yourself. The shadow work here is not to dim your light, but to understand that your worth is not dependent on the applause of others. It's about accepting the part of you that feels insecure, holding it and shining anyway, not because you need to prove something, but because it's who you are. Or consider a sun in Pisces. Your spirit is inherently empathetic, intuitive, and compassionate. You're a dreamer, a mystic, a natural healer. But the shadow of this water-based sun is a susceptibility to spiritual escapism or feeling like a victim. When life gets tough, the shadow Pisces might trust the universe to an extreme, retreating into a world of fantasy, binge-watching shows, or spiritual bypassing to avoid facing the very real, very painful emotions of the human experience. Instead of taking a difficult but necessary action, like setting a boundary with a draining friend, the shadow might rationalize, "The universe is testing my compassion." This is a perfect example of lazy spiritual advice. The universe is not testing your compassion. It's asking you to integrate your compassion with self-respect. The shadow work is about grounding your spiritual nature in the reality of your body and your life, not using it as an escape hatch. It's about realizing that your intuition is a guide for action, not a justification for inaction. So, how does this all relate to your own journey? You'll find that where you feel most stuck, most frustrated, or most powerless is often the very place where your sun sign shadow is active. Maybe you're a driven sun in Capricorn who trusts the universe by overworking, refusing to rest, and then blames external forces when you burn out. Okay, the shadow is a fear of not being in control, a belief that your worth is tied to your productivity. Or maybe you're a freedom-loving sun in Sagittarius who trusts the universe to provide adventure but is too afraid to commit to a single path, bouncing from one thing to the next, blaming the universe for a lack of direction when it's really a fear of deep commitment. The key to all of this is awareness. The shadow is only powerful in the dark. Once you bring your conscious awareness to it, it loses its grip. It becomes just another part of you that needs love and integration. You don't have to fix it. You just have to see it for what it is. The universe is waiting for you to become whole, to stop hiding from yourself, because only then can you truly align with your destiny. Think about the traits of your sun sign that you're most proud of. Now, what's the painful, difficult, or scary flip side of that coin? That's your shadow. What action would you take if you weren't afraid of that shadow? Now, let's turn to your inner world, the landscape of your emotions and your subconscious, ruled by the moon sign. If the sun is the who you are, your moon is the how you are. It's your automatic emotional responses, your needs, and your comfort zone. It's the part of you that craves security, and because of this, it can also be the part that resists change the most. The shadow of your moon sign is a profound part of the trust, the universe myth, because it's where we often hide, seeking comfort in what's familiar, even if it's no longer serving us. This is where we say, "I'm just waiting for the right moment," when really, we're just emotionally afraid to step into the unknown. Think about a person with a moon in Cancer. Your emotional nature is deeply nurturing, protective, and sensitive. You find comfort in caring for others and creating a safe haven. The shadow, however, can be a tendency toward emotional codependence, holding on to past hurts or retreating into a shell when you feel threatened. The trust the universe platitude can become a justification for this retreat. Instead of having a difficult conversation with a loved one about a boundary you need to set, the shadow moon in Cancer might say, "I'm just going to send them love and trust the universe to work it out." This isn't trust, it's emotional avoidance. The shadow work is about realizing that your deep sensitivity is a superpower, not a weakness, and that you are capable of holding your own emotional space without needing to retreat. It's about seeing that your need for security doesn't mean you have to stay small. It means you need to build that security within yourself, not in external circumstances or other people. Or consider a moon in Aries. Your emotional needs are rooted in independence, action, and spontaneity. You feel safe when you can take charge and express your emotions directly and uninhibitedly. The shadow of this fiery moon, though, can be an emotional impatience or an explosive temper that drives people away. When faced with a challenging situation, the shadow might trust the universe to make things happen right now. And when they don't, it turns into emotional frustration or passive aggression. Instead of working through a long-term project with patience, the shadow moon in Aries might give up, rationalizing, "Well, the universe must be closing this door." The shadow work here is learning that true emotional power comes from sustained effort, not just instant gratification. It's about integrating the fiery passion of your moon with a deeper sense of emotional resilience, allowing for the natural rhythm of life without needing to force it. The shadow of your moon sign is always linked to your deepest fears. It's that part of you, that convinced if you step out of your emotional comfort zone, you won't be okay. This is why you often see someone with a moon in Virgo who trusts the universe to deliver perfect results but is secretly terrified of making a mistake, constantly overanalyzing and criticizing their own efforts. The shadow here is an emotional need for perfection and control that makes it impossible to simply exist in the messy, imperfect flow of life. The key insight is this: your emotional habits, the ones you run on autopilot, are often the very things keeping you from receiving the blessings you're asking for. The universe isn't going to grant you a life of abundance and then leave you with the same emotional wiring that only knows how to live in scarcity. The work is to untangle those emotional knots, to sit with the discomfort of the unknown, and to expand your emotional comfort zone. This isn't about ignoring your needs. It's about meeting them in a more conscious and empowered way. When you can do that, you'll find that trusting the universe isn't a passive plea. It's the natural result of knowing you can handle whatever comes your way. So, take a moment and ask yourself, what emotional habit do I fall back on when I feel scared or insecure? And how might that be keeping me stuck? Now we're moving from the heart and soul to the mind. Let's talk about Mercury, the planet of communication, thought processes, and how you perceive the world. If you've ever felt like your thoughts were working against you, or that you were trapped in a loop of self-doubt and overthinking, you're experiencing the shadow of Mercury. While a well-integrated Mercury can help you express your truth with clarity and wit, its shadow can create a paralyzing inner critic, a tendency to second-guess your intuition, or a fear of speaking up at all. When we blindly trust the universe, it's often because our internal Mercury has convinced us we don't know enough to make a decision, or that we'll say the wrong thing. Consider a person with Mercury in Gemini. Your mind is quick, curious, and loves to gather information. You can see all sides of an issue, and you're a natural conversationalist. The shadow, however, is a mind that never settles. It can manifest as a constant stream of self-doubt and indecision. When faced with a big life choice like taking a new job or ending a stagnant relationship, the shadow, Mercury in Gemini, might trust the universe by endlessly gathering more information, talking to everyone, and weighing every possible outcome, but never actually making a move. It's a form of spiritual paralysis. The real work is not to get more information, but to learn to trust your inner voice over the chaotic chatter of your mind. It's about training your brain to support your intuition, not to drown it out. The universe doesn't need to send you a sign. Your intuition already is. You just have to quiet the noise long enough to hear it. Or, let's look at a person with Mercury in Scorpio. Your mind is naturally penetrating, psychological, and loves to uncover hidden truths. You are a detective of the human spirit. The shadow of this placement, though, is a mind that becomes suspicious, secretive, or hyper-focused on perceived slights. When something goes wrong, the shadow Mercury in Scorpio might trust the universe to deliver justice or revenge, while secretly obsessing over the details and constructing elaborate narratives of betrayal. This isn't trust, it's a form of mental imprisonment. The shadow work is about redirecting that incredible mental focus from what's wrong with others to what's ready to be healed within yourself. It's about using your psychic and mental gifts for self-reflection and empowerment, not for holding on to a victim narrative. You see, the shadow of Mercury is the lie you tell yourself. It's the internal monologue that says, I'm not smart enough, I'm not articulate enough, or I'm going to fail, so why bother trying? When we say, I'll just trust the universe to send me the right words, we often just using it as a spiritual excuse to avoid the fear of rejection or the vulnerability of speaking our truth. The universe isn't a teleprompter. It's waiting for you to find your own voice, to stand in your own power, and to communicate your needs and desires clearly. The real spiritual principle here is that clarity of thought leads to clarity of action. If your mind is a messy, doubtful, and fearful place, your actions will reflect that. The shadow work of Mercury is to become a kind and discerning observer of your own thoughts. It's about questioning the narratives your mind is creating and asking, is this true? Is this helpful? Or is this just my shadow protecting me from perceived risk? When you can do that, you'll find that trusting the universe isn't a passive wish, but an empowered state of mind. You'll be able to hear your own wisdom and act on it without needing to wait for permission from the cosmos. So, I want you to reflect on this. What story does your mind tell you when you feel stuck? And how can you begin to rewrite that narrative? Alright, let's talk about the spiritual tug-of-war between desire and worthiness. This brings us to Venus, the planet that governs your values, your relationships, and what you find beautiful. Venus is all about attraction, what you are drawn to, and what you attract into your life. The shadow of Venus, however, is the deep-seated belief that you are unworthy of the very things you desire. When we use the phrase trust the universe, this shadow often whispers, I'll get it if I'm meant to, but I'm not going to try too hard in case I fail, because that would prove I'm not worthy. This is a classic case of spiritual self-sabotage. Imagine someone with a Venus in Pisces. Your Venus loves to be in love. It's romantic, compassionate, and sees the best in everyone. It longs for a fairy tale connection. The shadow of this beautiful placement, though, is a fear of not being enough. a belief that you must suffer for love, or a tendency to project a fantasy onto a partner, making them an idealized savior. The shadow Venus in Pisces might trust the universe to bring in their soulmate, while simultaneously being passive in their relationships, not setting boundaries and accepting less than they deserve. This isn't trust. It's a fear of confronting the messy reality of human connection. The shadow work here is about learning to be your own savior. It's about realizing that your worth is not dependent on a partner's love. It's about building a sense of value from the inside out, so you can attract a relationship that's a partnership, not a rescue mission. The universe isn't a magical matchmaker who rewards passivity. It's a mirror reflecting the love you are willing to give yourself. Or consider a person with Venus in Capricorn. You value stability, commitment, and a partner who is mature and ambitious. You are drawn to what is lasting and tangible. The shadow, however, is a deep fear of being unlovable unless you are perfect, successful, or have achieved something. This can lead to a belief that love is a reward for your hard work, not an inherent right. The shadow Venus in Capricorn might trust the universe to bring financial abundance or career success, but secretly believes that love is a luxury they don't deserve or must earn. This can manifest as an inability to receive compliments, a resistance to pleasure, or a tendency to prioritize work over connection. This isn't trust, it's a fear of emotional vulnerability. The shadow work is about understanding that abundance in all forms love money. Joy is your birthright. It's about letting go of the idea that you have to work for love and learning to simply receive it. The shadow of Venus is the part of you that keeps a tally of your perceived flaws and uses them as evidence for why you can't have what you want. It's the scarcity mindset that says, there's not enough to go around, or I'll never be able to afford that, even when opportunities are right in front of you. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to not pursue a desire, we are actually saying, I don't trust myself to be worthy of this. The universe is always sending you signals and opportunities, but you have to be in a state of reception. A mind and heart filled with feelings of unworthiness can't receive. The key insight is this: the universe isn't holding out on you. Your shadow is. It's your job to identify the root of that unworthiness and begin to heal it. This is the brave and beautiful work of learning to love yourself, not just as you wish you were, but as you are right now, in all your perfectly imperfect glory. When you can do that, you'll find that trusting the universe isn't about hoping. It's about knowing that you are a vessel worthy of all the good things life has to offer. So, reflect on this. What desire have you been passively hoping for, and what fear of unworthiness might be standing in its way? Let's now turn our attention to the planet of action and desire, Mars. Mars is your spiritual engine. It represents your drive, your courage, your passion, and how you assert yourself in the world. A well-integrated Mars is a force of empowered action, giving you the energy to go after what you want. However, the shadow of Mars is the fear of conflict, the tendency toward procrastination, or a passive-aggressive approach to getting your needs met. This shadow often manifests as a spiritual bypass, where we say, I'll just trust the universe to open the door, when in reality, we're too afraid to knock. Imagine a person with Mars in Libra. Your natural inclination is to act with grace and consideration for others. You are a natural diplomat, and your energy is driven by a need for harmony. The shadow, however, is a deep-seated fear of confrontation and a tendency to avoid conflict at all costs. This can lead to passive-aggressive behavior or an inability to make a decision as you're constantly weighing all sides. The shadow Mars in Libra might say, I'm just going to trust the universe to resolve this conflict, while secretly seething inside, hoping the other person will change. This isn't trust. It's a refusal to assert your own needs and boundaries. The shadow work here is about understanding that true harmony isn't the absence of conflict, but the courageous and loving navigation of it. It's about realizing that your needs are just as valid as anyone else's, and that you have a right to stand up for yourself. The universe is not a conflict resolution service. It's a dynamic arena where your courage is forged in the fire of direct action. Or consider a person with Mars in Pisces. Your drive is fueled by your intuition and compassion. You're a natural empath, and your actions are often guided by a desire to help others. The shadow of this placement, though, is a lack of personal boundaries, a tendency toward martyrdom, or a feeling of being drained by the needs of others. The shadow Mars in Pisces might trust the universe to take care of a situation while feeling completely overwhelmed and powerless. They might say, the universe will help them, when what they're really doing is avoiding the difficult and draining work of setting a boundary and saying, no, this isn't trust. It's a form of spiritual avoidance. The shadow work is to learn to harness your powerful empathetic energy and direct it toward your own well-being. It's about realizing that your energy is a finite resource and that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's a necessary act of self-love and self-preservation. The shadow of Mars is the reason why you know what you need to do, but you just can't bring yourself to do it. It's the voice of procrastination that says, "I'll start tomorrow," or "the timing isn't right." This is not the universe telling you to wait. It's your shadow telling you that you're not ready, that you're not strong enough, or that the task is too daunting. When we use trust the universe as a reason to not take action, we are essentially disowning our own power. The universe has given you a spiritual engineer Mars for a reason. It's meant to be used. The key insight is this: the universe rewards action. It responds to your energy, your effort, and your courage. The magic happens when you take the first step, even if it's a small one. The shadow work of Mars is to identify what you're truly afraid of: rejection, failure, conflict, and to take the action anyway. It's about recognizing that the perfect moment is now, because it's the only one that truly exists. So, reflect on this. What action have you been procrastinating on, and what fear might be hiding behind that inaction? Alright, let's now talk about the planet of expansion and good fortune, Jupiter. Jupiter is a benevolent giant in the zodiac, representing growth, opportunity, and optimism. It's the part of you that believes in miracles and sees the big picture. When people say, "trust the universe," they are often speaking from a Jupiterian perspective, believing that things will just work out. And while a healthy dose of optimism is a beautiful thing, the shadow of Jupiter is a dangerous kind of delusion, spiritual bypassing. This is the act of using spiritual beliefs to avoid confronting painful realities, difficult emotions, or necessary action. Consider a person with Jupiter in Aries. Your sense of optimism and luck is tied to taking bold, courageous action. You believe in jumping in and starting new things? The shadow of this placement, though, is an over-optimism that can lead to recklessness or a belief that you're invincible. The shadow, Jupiter in Aries, might trust the universe to make a risky business venture work out, without doing any of the practical, grounded work of planning or research. When the venture fails, they might say, "Well, the universe must have had another plan," when in reality, they were just unprepared. This isn't trust. It's a lack of respect for the practical side of life. The shadow work is about integrating your boundless optimism with grounded, conscious effort. It's about realizing that faith without works is dead. The universe loves a bold move, but it also rewards preparation and discipline. Or, let's look at a person with Jupiter in Pisces. Your sense of luck and expansion comes from your spiritual and intuitive connection to the universe. You are a natural dreamer and mystic, and you believe in the power of unseen forces. The shadow of this placement is an over-reliance on faith that borders on escapism. When faced with a difficult situation, like a broken relationship or a financial crisis, the shadow Jupiter in Pisces might say, "I'll just meditate on it and trust the universe to solve it," while taking no concrete steps to fix the problem. This isn't trust, it's a form of spiritual avoidance. The shadow work is about grounding your beautiful intuition in the messy reality of the human experience. It's about realizing that your spiritual connection is meant to inform your actions, not replace them. The universe is not a magical wish-granting factory. It's a living system that requires your active participation. The shadow of Jupiter is the feeling that you are above the mundane work of life. It's the belief that because you are a spiritual person, things should just work out for you without effort. This is a subtle form of arrogance that keeps you from facing the truth of your situation. You'll often find people with a strong Jupiter who are financially in debt or in failing relationships. But they're still saying it's all good. The universe is working on it. They're not being optimistic. They're being delusional. The universe is a mirror. If you believe you are above the laws of cause and effect, you will find yourself in situations that force you to confront them. The key insight is this: true faith is not a blind leap in the dark. It's an empowered step forward in the light of conscious action. The shadow work of Jupiter is to bring your spiritual beliefs down to earth. It's about using your optimism to fuel your effort, not to replace it. The universe wants to see you grow, but growth requires you to get your hands dirty. It requires you to be honest about where you are and to take responsibility for where you want to go. The magic happens when you combine your boundless faith with concrete, measurable action. So, reflect on this. Where in your life have you been using optimism to avoid facing a difficult reality? And what is one small, practical step you can take today? We've covered the free-spirited energy of Jupiter, and now we must balance it with the master teacher of the zodiac, Saturn. Saturn is the planet of discipline, structure, responsibility, and boundaries. It's the force that teaches us about the hard lessons of life, the things we have to earn, and the very real limits of our reality. The shadow of Saturn is a deep-seated fear of failure, an inability to let go of control, or a rigid perfectionism that prevents you from even starting. When we say trust the universe, the shadow Saturn often uses it as a justification for staying small, telling us, "I'm just waiting for the cosmic plan to unfold," when in reality, we're too afraid to take a risk and face the potential of a difficult outcome. Consider a person with Saturn in Cancer. Your sense of security and stability is built on emotional foundations, and you value a strong, safe home life. The shadow, however, is a fear of vulnerability or a need to control emotional outcomes to prevent past hurts from reoccurring. The shadow Saturn in Cancer might say, "I'm just trusting the universe to bring the right partner into my life," while secretly building emotional walls and refusing to let anyone in. Believing that emotional control is the only way to feel safe. This isn't trust, it's a profound fear of emotional risk. The shadow work is about learning that true security comes not from controlling every variable, but from building a resilient inner world. It's about letting go of the need for an outcome to be a certain way and trusting that you have the emotional fortitude to handle whatever happens. The universe isn't a locked box of perfectly safe outcomes. It's an expansive ocean that requires you to learn to swim. Or, let's look at a person with Saturn in Libra. Your sense of responsibility is tied to fairness and relationships. You take your commitments seriously and value a sense of balance and justice. The shadow of this placement, though, is a crippling indecisiveness, or a fear of making a decision that might upset the balance, even if that decision is the right one for you. The shadow Saturn in Libra might trust the universe to make a difficult decision for them, saying, "I'm just going to wait for the universe to give me a sign," when in reality they are paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong choice and hurting someone. This isn't trust, it's a profound fear of personal responsibility. The shadow work is about realizing that true balance doesn't come from avoiding difficult choices, but from having the courage to make them, even if they're not popular. It's about learning that the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to be clear and decisive even when it's hard. The shadow of Saturn is the part of you that believes you must do everything perfectly before you can even begin. It's the voice of the inner critic that says, "I'm not ready yet," or "I'm not good enough." When we use trust the universe as an excuse to procrastinate, we are simply giving Saturn's shadow more power. We're telling ourselves that our own efforts are not enough, and we're looking for an external force to rescue us from the work we need to do. But the truth is, the universe is a co-creator. It rewards effort and resilience. It's waiting for you to build the structure and discipline that your dreams require. The key insight is this: true spiritual maturity comes from taking responsibility for your own life. The shadow work of Saturn is to face your fears of failure and to recognize that every failure is simply a lesson in disguise. It's about building your own boundaries, creating your own structure, and trusting that your own hard work is a powerful form of co-creation. The universe doesn't do the work for you. It honors the work you do. So, reflect on this. What area of your life have you been avoiding taking responsibility for? And what small boundary or structure can you build today? We've covered the disciplined energy of Saturn. Now, let's break free and look at its polar opposite, Uranus. Uranus is the planet of rebellion, sudden change, innovation, and liberation. It's the unpredictable force that shakes things up, bringing in new perspectives and breaking old stagnant patterns. While a well-integrated Uranus can lead to incredible breakthroughs and authentic freedom, its shadow is a deep-seated resistance to change. This may seem counterintuitive, but the shadow of Uranus is the part of you that craves security and routine so much that it actively avoids any disruption, even when that disruption is exactly what you need to grow. When we say, "trust the universe," the shadow Uranus can use it as a passive surrender, saying, "I'll just wait for the universe to change my situation," instead of actively initiating a necessary change. Consider a person with Uranus in Leo. Your inner rebel is expressed through your creative self-expression and your desire to be seen as unique. You have a need to stand out and be a leader. The shadow, however, is a profound fear of rejection or a need for external validation that makes you resist authentic change. The shadow Uranus in Leo might trust the universe to bring in the perfect creative project or career opportunity, but secretly be afraid of showing their true, weird, unique self to the world. They're waiting for external validation to give them permission to be who they are, which is the very opposite of what a Uranian energy is about. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of being judged for being different. The shadow work is about realizing that your unique self is your greatest asset. It's about taking the leap and initiating a change, even if it feels scary, because true liberation is an inside job. The universe isn't going to hand you permission to be yourself. It's waiting for you to grant it to yourself. Or, let's look at a person with Uranus in Scorpio. Your need for liberation is tied to deep psychological transformation and breaking free from what is hidden. You have a profound desire to uncover the truth and change things from the inside out. The shadow, though, is a fear of that very process. It can manifest as a resistance to deep emotional work, or a reluctance to let go of old, ingrained patterns. The shadow Uranus in Scorpio might trust the universe to help them get over an old trauma or a difficult emotional experience, but they are secretly avoiding the painful and necessary work of looking at it, feeling it, and letting it go. This isn't trust. It's a fear of the very intensity and transformative power that they possess. The shadow work is about realizing that true liberation comes from walking through the fire, not from hoping it disappears. It's about consciously choosing to face the darkness within yourself, knowing that on the other side of it is profound freedom. The shadow of Uranus is the part of you that's comfortable with the devil you know. It's the voice that says, "It could be worse," or "What if I make a mistake and everything falls apart?" When we use trust the universe to avoid initiating change, we are essentially disowning our own power to innovate and liberate ourselves. We're telling ourselves that we are a passive observer in our own lives, waiting for a cosmic thunderbolt to do the work for us. But the truth is, the universe is a co-conspirator. It rewards those who are brave enough to break a pattern, to start something new, and to stand out from the crowd. The key insight here is this: the universe is constantly sending you signals for change, but you have to be brave enough to act on them. The shadow work of Uranus is to face your fear of the unknown and to realize that the most liberating changes in your life will be the ones that you initiate yourself. It's about being your own agent of change. So, reflect on this. What stagnant pattern in your life is begging for a Uranian breakthrough? And what small rebellious step can you take today to initiate it? Following the liberating energy of Uranus, we must now delve into the mystical, often murky waters of Neptune. Neptune is the planet of spirituality, dreams, imagination, and a transcendent connection to all things. It dissolves boundaries, making you feel a part of something larger than yourself. While a well-integrated Neptune can bring profound compassion and a deep spiritual connection, its shadow is a tendency toward escapism, delusion, or a victim mentality. This shadow is a master of using the phrase "trust the universe" to avoid any form of grounded reality or personal responsibility. It's the voice that says, "It's not my fault, the universe is doing this to me." Consider a person with Neptune in Sagittarius. Your spiritual path is one of seeking higher knowledge, adventure, and a broad philosophical understanding of life. You're drawn to global cultures and different belief systems. The shadow, though, is a spiritual arrogance or a tendency to get lost in an intellectualized belief system without applying it to your life. The shadow Neptune in Sagittarius might trust the universe to bring them a spiritual teacher or a mystical experience, while secretly avoiding the hard work of inner reflection and self-discipline. They might use a spiritual belief as a reason to not commit to a job or a relationship, rationalizing it as "not my path." This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of living a grounded, purposeful life. The shadow work is about bringing your vast spiritual understanding down into your daily life. It's about realizing that true spirituality is not an escape from life, but an active, conscious engagement with it. The universe is not a distant, abstract concept. It's a living force that requires you to walk your talk. Or, let's look at a person with Neptune in Libra. Your spiritual nature is expressed through your relationships and your desire for harmony and a higher connection with others. You are a natural peacemaker and can see the spiritual purpose of relationships. The shadow, however, is a tendency toward codependence or a victim narrative, where you believe you must sacrifice your own needs for the sake of a relationship. The shadow Neptune in Libra might trust the universe to fix a broken relationship, while secretly playing the victim and feeling powerless to change their own behavior. They might say, "The universe put me here to learn a lesson," while refusing to set a boundary or walk away from a toxic situation. This isn't trust. It's a profound inability to take personal responsibility for your own happiness. The shadow work here is about understanding that true spiritual connection in a relationship comes from two whole people, not from one person sacrificing themselves for another. It's about realizing that your spiritual connection is meant to empower you, not to make you a doormat. The shadow of Neptune is the part of you that wants to be rescued. It's the voice that tells you that you are a victim of circumstances, or that you are powerless against the forces of life. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to avoid a problem, we are essentially disowning our own power and handing it over to a vague external force. But the truth is, the universe is waiting for you to stand up and take responsibility for your own life. It's waiting for you to use your spiritual connection, not as an escape, but as a source of courage and clarity. The key insight is this: true faith is not a passive waiting game. It's a profound and empowering connection that fuels your action. The shadow work of Neptune is to learn to discern between a divine nudge and a spiritual delusion. It's about grounding your spiritual beliefs in the reality of your body and your life, and realizing that you are not a victim of the universe, but an active co-creator of it. So, reflect on this. Where in your life are you using a spiritual belief to avoid taking responsibility? And what is the one difficult truth you are refusing to face? Alright, let's descend into the most intense and transformative part of the astrological chart: Pluto. Pluto is the planet of death, rebirth, transformation, and deep psychological healing. It rules what is hidden, what is taboo, and what needs to be released in order to make way for new life. While a well-integrated Pluto can lead to profound self-mastery and spiritual rebirth, its shadow is a deep-seated fear of change, a feeling of powerlessness, or a subconscious tendency to self-sabotage. When we say trust the universe, the shadow Pluto can use it as a justification for staying in a state of feeling powerless, believing that forces outside of our control are the reason for our suffering. Consider a person with Pluto in Scorpio. This is the generational placement for many millennials, and it brings an intense desire for deep transformation and a need to uncover the hidden truths of life. The shadow, however, is a fear of that very intensity. It can manifest as a resistance to deep emotional work or an inability to let go of old resentments and traumas. The shadow Pluto in Scorpio might say, "I'm just trusting the universe to heal my trauma," while secretly holding onto a victim narrative or a belief that they are fundamentally broken. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of the pain that must be felt in order to heal. The shadow work here is about understanding that the universe doesn't heal you without your participation. It's about consciously choosing to walk into the darkness and to face the parts of yourself that you have been afraid to look at. The universe is not a therapist. It's a mirror that reflects the work you're willing to do on yourself. Or, let's look at a person with Pluto in Libra. Your generational desire for transformation is tied to relationships and social justice. You have a profound need to expose what is unfair or imbalanced in your life and in the world. The shadow of this placement, though, is a fear of standing alone or a tendency to project your power onto others. The shadow Pluto in Libra might trust the universe to fix a broken relationship, while secretly feeling powerless to set a boundary or to leave. They might say it's a karmic lesson I must learn, while staying in a toxic dynamic because they are terrified of being on their own. This isn't trust. It's a profound inability to claim their own power. The shadow work is about realizing that your power is not in controlling others, but in taking radical responsibility for your own life and your own choices. It's about understanding that the most profound transformation comes from within, not from waiting for someone else to change. The shadow of Pluto is the part of you that believes you are a victim of circumstances, or that you are fundamentally powerless. It's the voice that says, "I'll never get over this," or "This is just my lot in life." When we use trust the universe to avoid deep emotional work, we are simply giving Pluto's shadow more power. We're telling ourselves that we are a passive bystander in our own psychological journey, waiting for a cosmic intervention to save us from ourselves. But the truth is, the universe is a co-conspirator. It rewards those who are brave enough to face their own demons, to walk through their own fire, and to be reborn on the other side. The key insight is this: the universe is constantly offering you opportunities for profound transformation, but you have to be brave enough to take them. The shadow work of Pluto is to face your fear of death, the death of old habits, old identities, and old stories, and to realize that every ending is simply a doorway to a new beginning. It's about reclaiming your power and realizing that you are the master of your own destiny, not its victim. So, reflect on this. What part of your life have you felt powerless to change, and what small, courageous step can you take today to reclaim your power? We've explored the inner workings of the planets, but now let's look at how we present ourselves to the world. This brings us to your ascendant, or rising sign. While your sun is your core identity and your moon is your inner world, your ascendant is your maskets, the face you show to the world, the initial impression you give, and the filter through which you experience life. A well-integrated ascendant is a beautiful expression of your true self, allowing you to move through the world with grace and authenticity. However, the shadow of your ascendant is a persona you hide behind. A mask so convincing that you can get lost in it, believing that it is the real you. When we say, trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as a justification for staying hidden, telling us, the right people will see my true self. While we refuse to take off the mask and show our vulnerability, consider a person with an ascendant in Scorpio. Your rising sign gives you an air of intensity, mystery, and power. You appear to be in control, and you project a sense of strength. The shadow, however, is a profound fear of being seen as weak or vulnerable. The shadow Scorpio ascendant might trust the universe to bring them a deep, meaningful connection, while secretly pushing people away with their intensity and refusing to let their guard down. They might be waiting for someone to earn the right to see them, when in reality, they are too scared to be seen for who they are. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of intimacy and emotional exposure. The shadow work here is about understanding that your power doesn't come from being invulnerable, but from having the courage to be vulnerable. It's about taking the mask off and trusting that you are worthy of love, even in your messy, imperfect truth. The universe doesn't reward those who hide. It rewards those who have the courage to show up as they are. Or let's look at a person with an ascendant in Pisces. Your rising sign gives you a gentle, ethereal, and dreamy quality. You appear compassionate and empathetic. The shadow, however, is a tendency to be a spiritual chameleon, taking on the energy of those around you and losing your sense of self. The shadow Pisces ascendant might trust the universe to bring them into a community or a relationship, while secretly being afraid to assert their own identity. They might be waiting for others to define them, and then they wonder why they feel so lost. This isn't trust. It's a profound inability to stand in their own power and authenticity. The shadow work is about learning that your sensitivity is a superpower, not a weakness, and that you have a right to your own identity. It's about building a strong sense of self so you can move through the world without being so easily influenced by the energies of others. The shadow of your ascendant is the reason you feel inauthentic or misunderstood. It's the part of you that's terrified of being rejected for who you truly are. When we use trust the universe as a reason to not be vulnerable or to stay hidden, we are essentially building a wall between ourselves and the world. But the truth is, the universe wants you to be you. It's waiting for you to drop the act, to show up in your beautiful, unique truth, and to allow yourself to be seen. The people who are meant for you will love you for who you are, not for the mask you're wearing. The key insight is this: the universe can only respond to the energy you are truly emitting. If you're hiding behind a persona, you'll attract people and situations that are a match for that persona, not for your authentic self. The shadow work of your ascendant is to learn to drop the mask and to trust that you are worthy of love, acceptance, and belonging just as you are. So, reflect on this. What mask do you put on to feel safe in the world? And what would happen if you took it off? As we continue to peel back the layers, let's turn to a fascinating and often overlooked part of the chart: the lunar nodes. The north and south nodes of the moon aren't physical planets, but mathematical points that represent a karmic axis. The south node represents your past life tendencies, the comfort zone, the skills you've already mastered, and the familiar patterns you retreat to. The north node represents your soul's growth edge, the lessons you're here to learn, the purpose you're meant to embody, and the new territory you must explore. The shadow is found in the south node. It's the old, familiar habit that makes us feel safe, but ultimately keeps us from our true purpose. When we say, trust the universe, the shadow of the south node often uses it as an excuse to stay in what's comfortable, telling us, this is where I'm meant to be, while we secretly stagnate. Consider a person with a north node in Aries and a south node in Libra. Your soul's purpose is to learn to be independent, to take action, and to stand alone. Your comfort zone south node is in relationships, compromise, and trying to keep the peace. The shadow here is a profound inability to act without consulting others or to make a decision without external approval. The shadow south node might trust the universe to bring a partner into their life who will make all the decisions, while secretly being afraid of their own power and independence. They might say, I'm just waiting for the right person to come along, while a part of them is terrified of the commitment and responsibility that comes with a partnership, because it would force them to be a more fully realized person. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of living out their true purpose. The shadow work is about learning that your most important relationship is the one with yourself. It's about consciously choosing to take a stand, to take a leap, and to learn to trust your own instincts, even if it feels uncomfortable. The universe isn't going to hand you your purpose. It's waiting for you to walk toward it. Or let's look at a person with a north node in Virgo and a south node in Pisces. Your soul's purpose is to learn to be of service in a practical, grounded way, to create structure and to discern between reality and fantasy. Your comfort zone south node is in the ethereal, the spiritual, and the dreamy. The shadow here is a tendency towards spiritual escapism, a lack of boundaries, and a general feeling of being a victim of life circumstances. The shadow's south node might trust the universe to bring them a job they are passionate about, but they are secretly avoiding the hard work of building a resume, showing up on time, and putting in the effort. They might say, the universe will provide, while ignoring all the practical signs that they need to get their life in order. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of living a grounded, purposeful life. The shadow work is about bringing your beautiful, spiritual, and intuitive nature down to earth. It's about realizing that true spirituality is not an escape from the mundane, but an active, conscious engagement with it. The shadow of the lunar nodes is the spiritual tug-of-war between who you were and who you are meant to become. It's the part of you that's terrified of leaving the familiar shore of your south node to swim in the vast, unknown ocean of your north node. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to stay in our comfort zone, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not ready for its purpose. But the truth is, the universe is waiting for you to step into your destiny. The key insight is this: your deepest fulfillment is found in the very place you are most afraid to go. The shadow work of the lunar nodes is to consciously choose to move toward your growth edge, even when it feels scary. It's about realizing that your comfort zone is often a cage in disguise, and that true freedom is found in embracing the unknown. So, reflect on this. What part of your life feels the most comfortable? And what small, courageous step can you take today to move toward your soul's purpose? We've explored the planets and nodes, but now let's apply this wisdom to the houses, starting with the very first one. House 1, the house of the self, is ruled by your ascendant, and it represents your identity, your self-image, and the way you initiate things. It's the face you show to the world, your physical body, and your outward presentation. A well-integrated first house allows you to move through the world with confidence and authenticity, but its shadow is a deep-seated fear of being seen, an inauthentic self-image, or a constant need for external validation to feel worthy. When we say, "Trust the universe," this shadow often whispers, "I'll wait for the universe to see me," when in reality, we're too afraid to put ourselves out there in our beautiful, authentic truth. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their first house. Your energy is naturally focused on your personal identity and your individual path. You are a self-starter and you're meant to lead. The shadow, however, is a profound sense of self-doubt, or a tendency to compare yourself to others. The shadow of the first house might trust the universe to bring them a platform or a stage. While secretly being terrified of public speaking or of showing their true self to others, they might be waiting for the perfect opportunity to come along. While a part of them is convinced they're not ready, this isn't trust. It's a profound fear of rejection. The shadow work here is about understanding that your worth is not dependent on what others think of you. It's about showing up even when you're scared and taking up space in the world. The universe isn't a casting director waiting to discover you. It's a stage waiting for you to walk on. Or, let's look at a person with a less populated first house. Your energy is naturally focused on others, and your path of self-discovery might be a bit more subtle. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong sense of self, or an inability to stand up for yourself. The shadow first house might trust the universe to bring them a partner or a friend who will help them find their way. While secretly being afraid to define themselves outside of their relationships, they might say, "The universe will help me find my purpose," while they are waiting for someone else to tell them what it is. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of living an independent life. The shadow work is about learning that your most important relationship is the one with yourself. It's about consciously choosing to define yourself, to listen to your own needs, and to forge your own path, even if it feels lonely. The shadow of your first house is the reason you feel inauthentic, misunderstood, or invisible. It's the part of you that convinced you not good enough to be seen. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to not show up as our authentic selves, we are essentially building a wall between ourselves and the life we are meant to live. But the truth is, the universe can only meet you where you are. If you're hiding, it can't see you. The key insight is this: your deepest fulfillment is found in the very place you are most afraid to show up in your own skin as yourself. The shadow work of the first house is to learn to love and accept yourself exactly as you are, and to trust that you are worthy of being seen. It's about realizing that you don't need permission from the cosmos to be who you are. So, reflect on this. What part of yourself are you most afraid to show the world? And what would happen if you began to express it just a little bit today? Following the house of self, let's move to house 2, the house of values and resources. This house governs not only your finances and material possessions, but also your sense of self-worth. It answers the question, what am I worth, and what do I value? A healthy second house is a powerful engine for abundance, allowing you to create and attract resources with a strong sense of personal value. However, the shadow of the second house is a crippling sense of scarcity, a fear of not having enough, or a belief that your worth is tied to your material possessions. When we say trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as a passive hope for financial relief, whispering, "The universe will send me money," while we are secretly unwilling to do the work, or to ask for what we're worth. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their second house. Your energy is naturally focused on building a secure and valuable life. You have a deep need for financial stability and can be incredibly resourceful. The shadow, however, is a profound fear of not having enough, or a tendency to hoard resources, whether they are money, time, or emotional energy. The shadow of the second house might trust the universe to provide for them, while secretly being terrified of spending money or investing in themselves, believing that the universe's well of abundance might run dry. This isn't trust, it's a profound scarcity mindset. The shadow work here is about understanding that abundance is a flow, not a static state. It's about learning to give and receive with an open heart, and to trust that there is always more than enough to go around. The universe doesn't reward those who cling to their resources, it rewards those who circulate them. Or let's look at a person with a less populated second house. Your energy is naturally focused on other areas of life, and your relationship with money and value might be more apathetic or detached. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong sense of personal value, which can manifest as an inability to ask for a raise, or a tendency to undervalue your own gifts and talents. The shadow second house might trust the universe to bring them a job they are passionate about, but they are secretly unwilling to ask for the compensation they deserve. They might say, "Money isn't important to me," while secretly resenting their financial situation. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of claiming their own worth. The shadow work is about learning that your value is inherent and that you have a right to be financially and personally abundant. It's about consciously choosing to invest in yourself and to ask for what you're worth. The shadow of your second house is the reason you feel financially stuck or emotionally insecure. It's the part of you that's convinced you're not valuable enough to have what you want. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to avoid a difficult financial conversation, or to settle for less than we deserve, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not worthy of a life of abundance. But the truth is, the universe is a co-conspirator. It rewards those who have a strong sense of their own value and are willing to take action on it. The key insight is this: your relationship with money is a mirror of your relationship with yourself. The shadow work of the second house is to heal your scarcity mindset and to build a strong sense of personal value from the inside out. It's about realizing that you don't need to prove your worth to the universe, you just need to claim it. So, reflect on this. What belief about money or your personal value have you been clinging to? And what small, courageous step can you take today to prove it wrong? Let's continue our journey through the houses. Moving now to House 3, the house of communication and the mind. This house governs your thought processes, your immediate environment, and how you learn and connect with others. It's the engine of your daily life, and a healthy third house is a powerful tool for self-expression and connection. However, the shadow of the third house is a fear of speaking your truth, a tendency toward gossip or overthinking, or a profound inability to connect with others authentically. When we say trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as an excuse to avoid a difficult conversation, whispering, "The universe will work it out," when in reality, we're too scared to say what we really feel. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their third house. Your energy is naturally focused on communication, learning, and local community. You are a natural connector and can be incredibly articulate. The shadow, however, is a profound sense of self-doubt or a fear of saying the wrong thing. The shadow of the third house might trust the universe to bring them a message or a creative idea, while secretly being terrified of sharing it with others. They might be waiting for the perfect words to come, while a part of them is convinced they're not smart enough or articulate enough. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of vulnerability. The shadow work here is about understanding that your voice is your power. It's about learning to speak your truth, even when it's shaky, and to trust that your words are valuable, even if they're not perfect. The universe isn't a scriptwriter, it's a co-conspirator waiting for you to use your voice to co-create your reality. Or let's look at a person with a less populated third house. Your energy is naturally focused on other areas of life, and your relationship with communication might be more subtle or introverted. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong sense of personal expression, which can manifest as an inability to stand up for yourself, or a tendency to bottle up your emotions. The shadow third house might trust the universe to help them find a way to express their feelings, but they are secretly unwilling to do the work of finding the words. They might say, "I'm just not good with words," while secretly resenting their inability to be heard. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of being seen. The shadow work is about learning that your voice is a sacred tool and that you have a right to be heard. It's about consciously choosing to find your words and to trust that you are worthy of having a say in your own life. The shadow of your third house is the reason you feel misunderstood or unheard. It's the part of you that's convinced your words don't matter. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to avoid a difficult conversation, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not worthy of a voice. But the truth is, the universe is a co-creator. It rewards those who are clear in their communication and brave enough to speak their truth. The key insight is this: your relationship with your voice is a mirror of your relationship with your power. The shadow work of the third house is to heal your fear of self-expression and to build a strong sense of personal authority from the inside out. It's about realizing that you don't need a perfect script, you just need to start talking. So, reflect on this. What conversation have you been avoiding, and what small, courageous step can you take today to begin it? Moving from the mind to the heart, let's explore House 4, the house of home, family, and roots. This house governs your emotional foundations, your private life, and your sense of inner security. It's the place you retreat to when you need to feel safe, and it reveals your relationship with your past, your parents, and your ancestry. A healthy fourth house provides a powerful sense of grounding and emotional stability, but its shadow is a profound sense of emotional insecurity, a tendency to cling to the past or a fear of creating a home that is truly your own. When we say, trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as a justification for staying in an emotionally unhealthy or stagnant situation, whispering, "The universe put me here for a reason," when in reality, we're too scared to leave. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their fourth house. Your energy is naturally focused on your home, your family, and your emotional well-being. You have a deep need for security and can be incredibly nurturing. The shadow, however, is a profound fear of being on your own, or a tendency to be an emotional martyr. The shadow of the fourth house might trust the universe to help them create the perfect home, while secretly being terrified of the emotional work that is required to heal old family wounds. They might be waiting for their family to change, or for a partner to fix their emotional life, while a part of them is convinced they're not capable of creating their own security. This isn't trust, it's a profound fear of emotional independence. The shadow work here is about understanding that your true home is within you. It's about learning to create your own sense of safety and security and to release the emotional baggage that is no longer serving you. The universe isn't going to hand you a new family. It's waiting for you to build one for yourself in your own way. Or, let's look at a person with a less populated fourth house. Your energy is naturally focused on other areas of life, and your relationship with home and family might be more detached or apathetic. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong emotional foundation, which can manifest as an inability to commit, or a tendency to constantly be on the move without ever truly settling down. The shadow fourth house might trust the universe to help them find a place to belong, but they are secretly unwilling to do the work of creating a home, whether it's a physical one or an emotional one. They might say, "I'm a free spirit," while secretly resenting their inability to feel grounded. This isn't trust, it's a profound fear of emotional vulnerability. The shadow work is about learning that your emotional stability is your superpower and that you have a right to feel safe and secure. It's about consciously choosing to build your own emotional foundation, even if it feels uncomfortable. The shadow of your fourth house is the reason you feel emotionally unstable or unrooted. It's the part of you that's convinced you are a product of your past and that you are powerless to change your future. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to stay in an unhealthy family dynamic or to avoid the emotional work, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not worthy of a stable and loving home. But the truth is, the universe is a co-creator. It rewards those who are brave enough to heal their past and to build a new foundation for their future. The key insight is this: your relationship with your home is a mirror of your relationship with your emotional self. The shadow work of the fourth house is to heal your emotional wounds and to build a strong sense of personal security from the inside out. It's about realizing that you don't need a perfect past to have a beautiful future. You just need to start building it one brick at a time. So, reflect on this. What unresolved family wound have you been carrying? And what small, courageous step can you take today to begin to heal it? All right, let's inject a little fun and creativity into this. We're now exploring House 5, the house of creativity, romance, pleasure, and children. This is the house of self-expression where you get to show the world who you are through your unique gifts and talents. A healthy fifth house is a powerful engine for joy, allowing you to play, create, and find fulfillment in the things you love. But its shadow is a profound fear of being seen, a lack of creative confidence, or a tendency to get stuck in a rut of self-seriousness. Believing that you're too busy or too important to play? When we say, trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as an excuse to avoid a creative project, whispering, "The universe will send me inspiration," when in reality, we're too scared to just start and see what happens. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their fifth house. Your energy is naturally focused on creative self-expression, whether it's through art, performance, or a playful attitude toward life. You have a deep need to be seen and can be incredibly magnetic. The shadow, however, is a profound fear of rejection, or a tendency to be a perfectionist, which is just a fancy word for terrified of failing. The shadow of the fifth house might trust the universe to bring them a creative breakthrough, while secretly being terrified of sharing their work with the world. They might be waiting for the perfect moment to create, while a part of them is convinced they're not good enough. This isn't trust, it's a profound fear of being judged. The shadow work here is about understanding that your creativity is your life force. It's about learning to create for the sheer joy of it without needing to attach a result to it. The universe isn't a critic, it's a co-creator, waiting for you to use your imagination to bring new things into the world. Or let's look at a person with a less populated fifth house. Your energy is naturally focused on other areas of life, and your relationship with creativity and pleasure might be more detached or apathetic. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong sense of personal expression, which can manifest as an inability to have fun or a tendency to be a workaholic. The shadow fifth house might trust the universe to bring them a fulfilling life, but they are secretly unwilling to do the work of finding what brings them joy. They might say, "I'm just a serious person," while secretly resenting their inability to play. This isn't trust, it's a profound fear of vulnerability. The The shadow work is about learning that your joy is your superpower and that you have a right to feel pleasure. It's about consciously choosing to make time for play and creativity, even if it feels uncomfortable. The shadow of your fifth house is the reason you feel creatively blocked or emotionally flat. It's the part of you that convinced you, not good enough to create something beautiful. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to avoid a creative project, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not worthy of joy. But the truth is, the universe is a co-creator. It rewards those who are brave enough to put their heart and soul on display without needing a guarantee of success. The key insight is this: your relationship with your creativity is a mirror of your relationship with your inner child. The shadow work of the fifth house is to heal your fear of being seen and to build a strong sense of creative confidence from the inside out. It's about realizing that you don't need a standing ovation to be an artist. You just need to start creating, one stroke at a time. So, reflect on this. What creative impulse have you been ignoring, and what small, courageous step can you take today to honor it? From the house of joy, let's move to the house of service and duty. We're now in house 6, the house of health, daily routines, and work. This house governs how you manage your day-to-day life, your physical well-being, and how you show up to be of service to others. A healthy sixth house is a powerful engine for productivity and well-being, allowing you to create a disciplined and healthy life. But its shadow is a profound sense of burnout, a tendency toward overworking, or a martyr complex where you believe you must sacrifice your own well-being for the sake of others. When we say trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as a justification for staying in a soul-sucking job or neglecting your health, whispering, "The universe needs me to be of service here," when in reality, we're too scared to set a boundary. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their sixth house. Your energy is naturally focused on being of service, on having a clear and organized routine, and on taking care of your health. You are a natural helper and can be incredibly dedicated. The shadow, however, is a profound sense of self-neglect or a tendency to be a workaholic. The shadow of the sixth house might trust the universe to help them get through a difficult week, while secretly being terrified of taking a day off or asking for help. They might be waiting for the perfect time to rest, while a part of them is convinced they're not worthy of it. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of not being needed. The shadow work here is about understanding that your well-being is your greatest asset. It's about learning to be of service to yourself first and to trust that you can't pour from an empty cup. The universe isn't a taskmaster, it's a co-conspirator, waiting for you to use your energy in a way that is both productive and sustainable. Or, let's look at a person with a less populated sixth house. Your energy is naturally focused on other areas of life, and your relationship with work and health might be more chaotic or detached. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong sense of personal discipline, which can manifest as an inability to follow through on promises to yourself or a tendency to neglect your physical or mental health. The shadow's sixth house might trust the universe to help them get a handle on their life, but they are secretly unwilling to do the work of creating a routine or making healthy choices. They might say, "I'm just not a morning person," while secretly resenting their lack of control. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of living a disciplined life. The shadow work is about learning that your discipline is your superpower and that you have a right to feel healthy and vibrant. It's about consciously choosing to invest in yourself, one small choice at a time. The shadow of your sixth house is the reason you feel drained, exhausted, or a victim of your own schedule. It's the part of you that convinced you must sacrifice your own needs for the sake of others. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to avoid a much-needed break, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not worthy of rest. But the truth is, the universe is a co-creator. It rewards those who are brave enough to prioritize their own well-being, knowing that a full cup is what allows you to serve others from a place of genuine abundance, not from a place of depletion. The key insight is this: your relationship with your work and your health is a mirror of your relationship with yourself. The shadow work of the sixth house is to heal your martyr complex and to build a strong sense of personal well-being from the inside out. It's about realizing that you don't need a perfect life to have a healthy one. You just need to start making small, healthy choices, one day at a time. So, reflect on this. What part of your daily routine have you been neglecting? And what small, courageous step can you take today to honor your well-being? We've explored the relationship with yourself in the first, second, third, and sixth houses. Now, let's pivot and look at how we connect with others. We're in House 7, the house of partnerships and committed relationships. This house governs your one-on-one connections, whether they are romantic, business, or otherwise. A healthy seventh house is a powerful engine for co-creation, allowing you to form balanced, harmonious relationships. But its shadow is a profound fear of being alone, a tendency toward codependence, or a habit of projecting your unhealed parts onto your partner. When we say trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as a passive hope for a partner to save us, whispering, "The universe will send me my soulmate," when in reality, we're too scared to be alone. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their 7th house. Your energy is naturally focused on partnerships and relationships. You have a deep need for connection and can be incredibly dedicated to a partner. The shadow, however, is a profound fear of being on your own or a tendency to lose yourself in a relationship. The shadow of the 7th house might trust the universe to help them find a partner, while secretly being terrified of the work that is required to become a whole person on their own. They might be waiting for a partner to fix them or for a relationship to complete them. While a part of them is convinced they're not worthy of love as they are, this isn't trust. It's a profound fear of emotional independence. The shadow work here is about understanding that you are already whole and complete. It's about learning to be your own source of happiness and to trust that you can handle being alone. The universe isn't going to hand you a new partner to make you whole. It's waiting for you to find your own wholeness first. Or, let's look at a person with a less populated 7th house. Your energy is naturally focused on other areas of life, and your relationship with partnerships might be more detached or apathetic. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong sense of personal boundaries, which can manifest as an inability to commit, or a tendency to constantly be in a state of superficial connection. The shadow 7th house might trust the universe to help them find a meaningful relationship, but they are secretly unwilling to do the work of setting boundaries and being vulnerable. They might say, "I'm just a lone wolf," while secretly resenting their inability to connect deeply. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of intimacy. The shadow work is about learning that your vulnerability is your superpower and that you have a right to feel deeply connected. It's about consciously choosing to invest in a relationship, one brave conversation at a time. The shadow of your 7th house is the reason you feel lonely even when you're in a relationship. It's the part of you that's convinced you are not worthy of love unless you have a partner. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to avoid the work of becoming a whole person, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not worthy of a loving partnership. But the truth is, the universe is a co-creator. It rewards those who are brave enough to stand on their own 2 feet, knowing that a healthy partnership is a meeting of 2 whole people, not 2 halves. The key insight is this: your relationship with others is a mirror of your relationship with yourself. The shadow work of the 7th house is to heal your codependent tendencies and to build a strong sense of personal wholeness from the inside out. It's about realizing that you don't need a partner to be complete. You just need to be brave enough to be yourself. So, reflect on this. What part of your life have you been waiting for a partner to fix? And what small, courageous step can you take today to fix it yourself? From the House of Partnerships, let's descend into the depths of House 8, the House of Transformation, Intimacy, and Shared Resources. This house governs the deepest, most hidden parts of yourself, your fears, your buried trauma, and your ability to undergo profound psychological change. It's where you merge with another person, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. A healthy 8th house is a powerful engine for self-mastery, allowing you to release what no longer serves you and be reborn into a new version of yourself. But its shadow is a profound fear of intimacy, a tendency to cling to old trauma, or a feeling of being a victim of circumstance. When we say, trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as a justification for staying in a state of feeling powerless, whispering, "The universe is testing me," when in reality, we're too scared to face the darkness within. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their 8th house. Your energy is naturally focused on deep, psychological understanding and transformation. You have a profound need to get to the truth of things and can be incredibly intuitive. The shadow, however, is a profound fear of vulnerability, or a tendency to self-sabotage. The shadow of the 8th house might trust the universe to help them get over an old trauma, while secretly being terrified of the pain that must be felt in order to heal. They might be waiting for a sign that they're ready to let go, while a part of them is convinced they're not strong enough to handle it. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of emotional depth. The shadow work here is about understanding that your power comes from facing your fears, not from avoiding them. It's about learning to walk into the darkness, knowing that your light is waiting on the other side. The universe isn't a therapist. It's a mirror that reflects the work you're willing to do on yourself. Or, let's look at a person with a less populated 8th house. Your energy is naturally focused on other areas of life, and your relationship with deep intimacy and transformation might be more detached or apathetic. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong sense of personal power, which can manifest as an inability to stand up for yourself in a relationship or a tendency to be a doormat. The shadow 8th house might trust the universe to help them get out of a toxic situation, but they are secretly unwilling to do the work of setting boundaries and reclaiming their power. They might say, "I just don't have a choice," while secretly resenting their lack of control. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of personal responsibility. The shadow work is about learning that your power is your superpower and that you have a right to feel safe and respected. It's about consciously choosing to invest in your own emotional and psychological well-being, one brave conversation at a time. The shadow of your 8th house is the reason you feel powerless or stuck in a cycle of self-sabotage. It's the part of you that's convinced you are a victim of your past and that you are powerless to change your future. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to avoid the difficult emotional work, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not worthy of a life of freedom. But the truth is, the universe is a co-creator. It rewards those who are brave enough to face their own demons and to be reborn into a new version of themselves. The key insight is this: your relationship with your power is a mirror of your relationship with your shadow. The shadow work of the 8th house is to heal your old wounds and to build a strong sense of personal authority from the inside out. It's about realizing that you don't need a perfect past to have a beautiful future. You just need to be brave enough to heal it. So, reflect on this. What part of your past have you been afraid to look at? And what small, courageous step can you take today to begin to heal it? We've explored the depths of the 8th house. Now let's rise to the expansive realm of House 9. This house governs higher wisdom, spiritual beliefs, long-distance travel, and your personal philosophy on life. It's the house of the guru, the teacher, the one who seeks to understand the big picture. A healthy 9th house is a powerful engine for growth, allowing you to expand your mind and your world through travel and learning. But its shadow is a profound sense of spiritual arrogance, a closed mind, or a lack of real-world application of your beliefs. When we say trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as a justification for staying in an intellectual bubble, whispering, "I already know the truth," when in reality, we're too scared to put our beliefs to the test, in the messy reality of life. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their 9th house. Your energy is naturally focused on seeking higher wisdom, whether through formal education, travel, or spiritual study. You have a deep need to understand the meaning of life and can be an incredible teacher. The shadow, however, is a profound sense of spiritual superiority, or a tendency to be a know-it-all. The shadow of the 9th house might trust the universe to bring them a profound spiritual revelation, while secretly being terrified of the work that is required to integrate that wisdom into their daily life. They might be waiting for the perfect guru to come along, while a part of them is convinced they're not ready to be a student. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of living a purposeful and grounded life. The shadow work here is about understanding that your wisdom is your greatest asset. It's about learning to be a student of life, not just of books, and to trust that your greatest teachers will be the ones who challenge you, not the ones who validate you. The universe isn't a library. It's a living system that requires you to walk your talk. Or, let's look at a person with a less populated 9th house. Your energy is naturally focused on other areas of life, and your relationship with higher wisdom and travel might be more detached or apathetic. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong sense of personal philosophy, which can manifest as an inability to have a sense of direction, or a tendency to be easily swayed by others' beliefs. The shadow 9th house might trust the universe to help them find their purpose, but they are secretly unwilling to do the work of exploring and questioning. They might say, "I'm just not a spiritual person," while secretly resenting their lack of a sense of meaning. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of the unknown. The shadow work is about learning that your curiosity is your superpower and that you have a right to have a sense of purpose. It's about consciously choosing to invest in your own spiritual and intellectual well-being, one question at a time. The shadow of your 9th house is the reason you feel spiritually lost or intellectually arrogant. It's the part of you that's convinced you must have all the answers before you can begin your journey. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to avoid the work of a purposeful life, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not worthy of a life of meaning. But the truth is, the universe is a co-creator. It rewards those who are brave enough to explore, to question, and to live their beliefs in the messy reality of the human experience. The key insight is this: your relationship with your beliefs is a mirror of your relationship with your life. The shadow work of the 9th house is to heal your spiritual arrogance and to build a strong sense of personal philosophy from the inside out. It's about realizing that you don't need a perfect plan to have a beautiful life. You just need to be brave enough to live it. So, reflect on this. What belief have you been clinging to, and what small, courageous step can you take today to put it to the test? Following the house of higher wisdom, let's descend to the top of the chart. To House 10, the house of career, reputation, and public image. This house governs your ambitions, your legacy, and how you are seen by the world. It's the engine of your public life, and a healthy 10th house is a powerful tool for success, allowing you to build a career that is both fulfilling and respected. But its shadow is a profound fear of failure, a tendency toward perfectionism, or a deep-seated need for external validation. When we say, trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as a justification for staying in a stagnant job or avoiding a professional leap, whispering, "The universe isn't ready for me to be successful," when in reality, we're too scared to put ourselves out there and risk a misstep. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their 10th house. Your energy is naturally focused on your career and your public image. You have a deep need to be successful and can be incredibly ambitious. The shadow, however, is a profound fear of not being good enough, or a tendency to be a perfectionist, which is just a fancy word for terrified of failing. The shadow of the 10th house might trust the universe to bring them a promotion or a new opportunity, while secretly being terrified of the work that is required to earn it. They might be waiting for the perfect moment to launch a new project, while a part of them is convinced they're not ready. This isn't trust, it's a profound fear of being judged. The shadow work here is about understanding that your legacy is not built on perfection but on progress. It's about learning to do your best and to trust that your imperfect efforts are worthy of success. The universe isn't a critic, it's a co-creator waiting for you to use your ambition to build something new in the world. Or let's look at a person with a less populated 10th house. Your energy is naturally focused on other areas of life, and your relationship with career and ambition might be more detached or apathetic. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong sense of personal authority, which can manifest as an inability to stand up for yourself at work, or a tendency to be a doormat. The shadow 10th house might trust the universe to help them find a job they love, but they are secretly unwilling to do the work of building a resume or having a difficult conversation with their boss. They might say, "I'm just not a career person," while secretly resenting their lack of professional fulfillment. This isn't trust, it's a profound fear of personal responsibility. The shadow work is about learning that your ambition is your superpower and that you have a right to feel successful. It's about consciously choosing to invest in your own professional development, one brave conversation at a time. The shadow of your 10th house is the reason you feel professionally stuck or creatively blocked. It's the part of you that's convinced you're not worthy of success. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to avoid the work of building a career, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not worthy of a life of fulfillment. But the truth is, the universe is a co-creator. It rewards those who are brave enough to put their heart and soul on display, without needing a guarantee of success. The key insight is this: your relationship with your work is a mirror of your relationship with your own sense of authority. The shadow work of the 10th house is to heal your fear of failure and to build a strong sense of personal authority from the inside out. It's about realizing that you don't need a perfect plan to have a beautiful career. You just need to be brave enough to live it. So, reflect on this. What professional leap have you been avoiding, and what small, courageous step can you take today to begin it? We've explored the individual's role in the public sphere. Now let's look at how we show up in community. This brings us to House 11, the house of friendships, groups, and social networks. This house governs your sense of belonging, your hopes for the future, and your ability to collaborate with others. A healthy 11th house is a powerful engine for innovation and connection, allowing you to find your tribe and contribute to a cause larger than yourself. But its shadow is a profound sense of isolation, a fear of not belonging, or a tendency to be a lone wolf. Even when you crave community, when we say, trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as a justification for staying in a state of solitude, whispering, "The universe will send me the right people," when in reality, we're too scared to put ourselves out there and risk a misstep. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their 11th house. Your energy is naturally focused on community, social causes, and building a better future. You have a deep need to belong and can be incredibly magnetic. The shadow, however, is a profound fear of rejection or a tendency to be a people pleaser, which is just a fancy word for terrified of not being liked. The shadow of the 11th house might trust the universe to bring them into a community that is a perfect fit, while secretly being terrified of the work that is required to build a real connection. They might be waiting for the perfect group to come along, while a part of them is convinced they're not worthy of it. This isn't trust, it's a profound fear of being judged. The shadow work here is about understanding that your worth is not dependent on what others think of you. It's about learning to be your authentic self in a group, even when it's scary, and to trust that your weirdness is your greatest asset. The universe isn't a social club. It's a co-creator waiting for you to use your unique gifts to contribute to a better world. Or let's look at a person with a less populated 11th house. Your energy is naturally focused on other areas of life, and your relationship with community and social networks might be more detached or apathetic. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong sense of personal boundaries, which can manifest as an inability to commit to a group, or a tendency to constantly be in a state of superficial connection. The shadow 11th house might trust the universe to help them find their tribe, but they are secretly unwilling to do the work of being vulnerable and authentic. They might say I'm just a lone wolf while secretly resenting their lack of a sense of belonging. This isn't trust, it's a profound fear of intimacy. The shadow work is about learning that your vulnerability is your superpower and that you have a right to feel deeply connected. It's about consciously choosing to invest in a relationship, one brave conversation at a time. The shadow of your 11th house is the reason you feel isolated, even when you're in a room full of people. It's the part of you that's convinced you are not worthy of a tribe unless you have a perfect persona. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to avoid the work of building a community, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not worthy of a life of belonging. But the truth is, the universe is a co-creator. It rewards those who are brave enough to stand on their own 2 feet, knowing that a healthy community is a meeting of 2 whole people, not 2 halves. The key insight is this: your relationship with others is a mirror of your relationship with yourself. The shadow work of the 11th house is to heal your fear of being seen and to build a strong sense of personal wholeness from the inside out. It's about realizing that you don't need a tribe to be complete. You just need to be brave enough to be yourself. So, reflect on this. What part of your life have you been waiting for a community to fix? And what small, courageous step can you take today to fix it yourself? We've arrived at the final house of the zodiac, House 12, the house of the unconscious, karma, and self-sabotage. This house governs what is hidden from our subconscious patterns, our self-undoing, and our connection to the collective unconscious. It's the engine of your spiritual life, but its shadow is a profound sense of victimhood, an inability to set boundaries, or a reliance on external saviors rather than inner wisdom. When we say, trust the universe, this shadow often uses it as a justification for staying in a state of disempowerment, whispering, the universe will take care of it, when in reality, we're too scared to take responsibility for our own actions. Consider a person with a lot of planetary energy in their 12th house. Your energy is naturally focused on the spiritual and the unseen. You have a deep need to be of service and can be incredibly intuitive. The shadow, however, is a profound sense of martyrdom or a tendency to be a doormat. The shadow of the 12th house might trust the universe to help them get out of a toxic situation, while secretly being terrified of the work that is required to set a boundary and say no. They might be waiting for the universe to send them a sign that it's okay to leave, while a part of them is convinced they're not strong enough to handle it. This isn't trust. It's a profound fear of personal responsibility. The shadow work here is about understanding that your power comes from your boundaries, not from your ability to sacrifice. It's about learning to be of service to yourself first, knowing that you can't help others if you're drowning. The universe isn't a savior. It's a co-creator, waiting for you to use your intuition to guide your actions. Or, let's look at a person with a less populated 12th house. Your energy is naturally focused on other areas of life, and your relationship with the spiritual and the unseen might be more detached or apathetic. The shadow, though, is a lack of a strong sense of personal boundaries, which can manifest as an inability to say no, or a tendency to constantly be in a state of superficial connection. The shadow 12th house might trust the universe to help them find a sense of purpose, but they are secretly unwilling to do the work of looking within. They might say, I'm just not a spiritual person, while secretly resenting their lack of a sense of meaning. This isn't trust, it's a profound fear of the unknown. The shadow work is about learning that your intuition is your superpower and that you have a right to feel deeply connected. It's about consciously choosing to invest in your own spiritual and psychological well-being, one brave act of self-love at a time. The shadow of your 12th house is the reason you feel like you're constantly fighting against yourself. It's the part of you that's convinced you are a victim of your past and that you are powerless to change your future. When we use trust the universe as an excuse to avoid the work of setting a boundary, we are essentially telling our soul that we are not worthy of a life of freedom. But the truth is, the universe is a co-creator. It rewards those who are brave enough to face their own demons and to be reborn into a new version of themselves. The key insight is this: your relationship with your shadow is a mirror of your relationship with your power. The shadow work of the 12th house is to heal your fear of responsibility and to build a strong sense of personal authority from the inside out. It's about realizing that you don't need a perfect plan to have a beautiful life. You just need to be brave enough to live it. So, we've come to the end of our journey, moving from a passive trust the universe to an active co-creation with it. We've seen how each planet and each house in your birth chart represents a unique spiritual challenge and an opportunity for growth. The work is not to wait for the universe to act, but to look at the shadow parts of yourself, the parts that are afraid, the parts that procrastinate, the parts that feel unworthy, and to bring them into the light. This is the brave and beautiful work of a conscious co-creator. This isn't just about a one-time thing. It's about a daily commitment to your own growth and your own power. Your challenge for this week is to choose just one of the shadow aspects we discussed, the one that resonated most deeply with you, and to take one small, actionable step to reclaim its power. Maybe it's a difficult conversation. Maybe it's setting a boundary. Maybe it's simply giving yourself permission to rest. The universe has already given you everything you need to succeed. It's in your hands now. Keep trusting your intuition, and I'll see you in the next one.